Bien, pues muy buenos días. Bienvenidos y bienvenidas todos ustedes.
Well, welcome. Good day. We're here today to share the results of the monitoring process of Vaquita 2025. As you're aware, SEMAR every year performs this, and to present the work that we have been doing the recent years and mostly what the current administration is doing with the leadership of Dr. Silvia Bárcenas and, of course, the commission of our president, which will have two accidents. I mean, we have two elements, the acoustic and visual. We have the support of Sea Shepherd, which president is today with us remotely, and of course the Mexican Navy with the Vice Almirant Sergio Reyna Barrios, the General Director of the services. Thank you very much for being here with us, sir. Also here with us, Julián. Escutia, that is also here from the Sea Shepherd organization, and the subsecretary from the environmental. Thank you very much for being here with us. And well, I introduce myself. I'm the National Commissioner for the National Commission of Protected Areas. And well, I want to say that I'm so proud due to all these efforts and what the federal government has done as with fishermen and fisherwomen, and which are our allies for this conservation in the Vaquita Marina region. For 3 years in a row, the observation scientific has shown that the survival of vaquita is increasing compared to the later years, and the species is moving on. This is what the experts are sharing today. We also have today Lorenzo Rojas Bracho, which is here also via remotely, with coordination of marine mammals from CONANP and experts in acoustic that will be promoting the acoustic monitoring that was held from May to September in all this mission that we have done along with Sea Shepherd. And also Dr. Barbara Taylor is here with us. That she has put a number of years of her life studying the vaquita purpose, and she will be sharing for this observation cruise 2025. Also, as I already mentioned, we are going to celebrate, along with many of you, our colleagues that have participating in these efforts. And also I want to highlight especially the presence also remotely on behalf of SEMAR from the National Department for Preservation, Mariana Boy. Thank you very much, Commissioner, for being here in this important meeting. Without any further review, I would like to give the floor to Deputy Almirant Barrios, the person in charge of the Navy, for a few words. Hello, good afternoon to everyone. It's my honor to be representing the Almirant Raimundo Pedro Morales Angeles, the Secretary of the High Command of the Navy, and also Jose Barradas Cobos. For me, it's an honor to be here before you, and well, listening and also looking forward the good news of this monitoring that was held just recently on behalf of the Navy Ministry. Well, the actions have been determined, and the last effect that we did was to monitor the smaller vessels and boats that are part of this terminal installations and satellite in 850 smaller boats that are the ones that operate in the higher Gulf of California. That way, we will be monitoring to find out where are they located, and that way we can avoid for them to operate in the zero tolerance area. Just recently, 2 terminals were out of service, that were already purchased, and they're about to receive them, but 840 remaining. They're already installed and operating in this boats where they were installed, and they're monitoring for this system in charge of the Navy Ministry, and we share this with SEMAR. Also, the support that we had to install radars in San Felipe and Puerto Peñascos, that has been very helpful to monitor as well these boats and vessels that operate in that area. On the other hand, this delimitation of the zero tolerance area has been fundamental to have control on the area in which it has been reproducing, Vaquita Marina has been reproducing, and in recent years, thanks to these actions, we have had accomplished good results. At least the population has been stable on this amount, and that's great news that it has grown a little bit. Thank you very much. Vice-Almirante Sergio Barrios, indeed, I believe that the information and the success in this zero tolerance, we can confirm along all the months, it has shown great result, and we will share this information today. I would like to ask Master, the Federal Commissioner of the Environment, a few words, please. Thank you very much, Pedro, and good afternoon to everyone. I'm so glad to say hello to all my colleagues, even though I'm far away. Thank you to all the media that are here with us in this very important press release. And some have shown a very important monitoring of Vaquita purpose that has been held in the last months and that has been happening in coordination of all the people in here, also Sea Shepherd, all the specialists, and with the information that will be shared today, its relevance for many standpoints of view, but I would like to highlight the relevance from the standpoint of Profepa, to have information about where vaquitas are located, and clearly all the information along with this monitoring allow us to have actions very well targeted vigilance and preservation, which are some of the main actions in this preservation plan for vaquita, and these are actions that we have in coordination with the Navy Ministry. I want to highlight that along all this year, we have doubled up our efforts, and we have had great results in these actions of inspection and vigilance in coordination with SEMAR, and of course, also with CONAPESCA. And just to mention a few data, I would like to stress that we have recovered almost 300 kilometers of illegal mesh nets. And very importantly, we have been able to create the law for some legal processes. And that's fundamental because we believe that there has to be some consequences for those that keep performing these unlawful activities. And we have been able to accomplish an important number of samples of totuaba that has been fished illegally. And lastly, I want to stress that the information that will be released today, it's very important in this sense to be able to double up our efforts and to address specifically the more relevant areas where we locate vaquita, to place our inspection for vigilance and support, and of course that we will continue promoting all the legal actions that will be at our reach to move forward on this commitment, which is relevant to protect the vaquita purpose in our country. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mariana. Indeed, Profepa's role is fundamental in this effort. Also, I would like to mention and highlight the relevant participation remotely of Dr. Singh, the CEO of Shipper Commission Society, that has been our main ally in this commitment, which is a direct impact for SEMAR and Navy. And I really want to acknowledge him and thank him for everything that he has done to support this initiative. Also with him, Dr. Gustavo Hinojosa will be in charge of that because he is the person in charge of all the effort of monitoring and research, along with the Vaquita and, of course, Dr. Barbara Taylor, which is an expert on the preservation of Vaquita. He has been supporting for many years on this topic. So right now, I would like Dr. Singh, if you would like to address to us a little bit.
There we go. Thank you very much. It's a real pleasure to be here with all of you. I'm Pritam Singh. I'm the president and chief executive of Sea Shepherd Conservation Society. I would like to thank SEMAR Secretary Barcena and SEMAR Deputy Secretary Robles and CONANP Commissioner Álvarez García for their kind invitation and for putting together this press conference. I recognize their and their team's leadership and commitment to the protection of the Vaquita porpoise. I am truly grateful for their partnership with Sea Shepherd. I salute Vice Admiral Reyna Barrios from the Mexican Navy, whose support is of extreme importance to protect and save the Vaquita. None of this could happen without their assistance. To the women and men of SEMAR, I express our most sincere recognition and gratitude. I would also like to recognize Dr. Taylor and the group of observers that have done, once again, a Herculean and superb job of work on this survey. I would like to thank Sea Shepherd's team for their work and commitment to saving marine wildlife in Mexico and beyond. Today, we are gathered to present the results of the Vaquita survey in 2025. Sea Shepherd Conservation Society is proud to be part of this relevant project for the third consecutive year and have been working shoulder to shoulder with all of you for the past over 10 years in Mexico. The Vaquita porpoise, as we know, is the most endangered marine mammal in the world and is still very much on the brink of extinction. As I've said in the announcement to the survey, we are facing an extraordinary situation that requires extraordinary actions. That is why Sea Shepherd has been stepping up and will continue to step up as your partner in this challenge. From May to September, Sea Shepherd supported the work of Gustavo Cardenas and his team of CONANP scientists and local fishermen in San Felipe to deploy the devices that recorded Vaquita in its refuge. It was an impressive effort that required resilience, creativity, and skill. Sea Shepherd has also supported and participated in this visual recent survey, which is an extraordinary. For the first time, we dedicated 2 large vessels and our crews on land and sea and all of our equipment, including drones, sonars, radar, and many specialists. It took us months to plan the survey with CONANP and the observers led by Dr. Barbara Taylor. We not only worked as a team, but lived as a team. More than a dozen of the most prestigious marine mammal experts in the world lived on our vessels during the month of September. This allowed us to take advantage of all the windows of good weather and opportunities to look for the Vaquita. Today, I'm proud to say that we achieved the objective of conducting a successful survey. Sea Shepherd's vessels sailed across the Vaquita refuge with no delay. Our crew participated actively in the monitoring, and very importantly, our drone operators recorded Vaquitas with some of the most extraordinary photographs ever taken of the Vaquita, which you will watch those videos today. They're very inspiring. I could not be more thankful to all the people involved in this effort, particularly the various Mexican government officials and departments. Dear friends, in a few minutes, you will listen to the results of the acoustic and visual monitoring of the Vaquita in 2025. I would like to say that based on the facts and the scientific data, there is hope for the Vaquita to survive. Sea Shepherd will continue doing everything possible that we can to save the Vaquita. We will also continue working with the Mexican government, local and international friends and allies to defend the Vaquita and its habitat, and whatever we can do to take the necessary actions to better protect it. we look forward to continuing our efforts with all of you. We will be there. Thank you very much for your attention.
Muchas gracias, Pritam. Reitero nuestro reconocimiento a todo el apoyo que están haciendo para el bien de México con este gran esfuerzo compartido, que solo así se va a poder, con todo lo que hacemos de sociedad civil, investigadores y gobierno, y por supuesto los pescadores y pescadoras. A continuación le pediremos al doctor Lorenzo Rojas Bracho, que es especialista en manejo
Dr. Bracho,
marinos,
that expert in marine mammals and restoration, and with all this acoustic and visual results that were part of this Vaquita 2025 Vaquita service. Please go ahead.
Muchas gracias, comisionado.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I would like to know if you're looking at my screen now. Yes, it's being shared.
Okay. Bueno, entonces, como mencionó Pedro,
so, as Pedro mentioned, I would like to present this background and the steps that we took to come to find out how this campaign was organized, this 2025 campaign. So as a context of this 2025 research, I believe that it's important that we review the previous cruises. And that's all the evidence that we saw from 2015 to 2025. I believe that it's a gray and there's the larger area. So these sightings do not reflect all the distribution because the vessel that we used, it was way too big and it was not able to navigate in shallow waters. But to the left is a 2015 cruise ship. We made this visual effort and acoustic that provide this image of the distribution of Vaquita. On the right, you can see these triangles, which are the sightings of Vaquita. The red lines are the routes of the cruiser, and the circles, the clicks, and purple looks the number of clicks or signals that we had per day. On this slide, there's the distribution of Vaquita that was, give or take, about the same from 2015 up to date. So back then, the estimation of abundance was 60 Vaquitas. I mean, under the 600 that we estimated in 1997. To the left, we have this area. What was the collapse of the population? The declining rate was 8% per year, and then we started the Totuaba thing, and then we had a 34% reduction, and then it was like 19, and then it was 47% reduction of Vaquita population. But now the distribution has been mainly to the zero tolerance that represent about 12% of the size of the distribution of this cruise ship that we did in 2015. So they have asked, why do we work in the zero tolerance area, or CDA? Well, unlawful fishery affected the cruise ships where there was high density of these boats with nets looking for Totuaba. Sometimes these CTAs are the ones with less activities, and we need to maneuver to avoid to tangle up with these nets. And also we miss some acoustic detectors, and with that, important data. So since 2018, the research we estimated to the CTA, where it was this with 2018, 2019, and 2021, we use acoustic data almost every day, from every day, to have the estimation of Vaquita in this CTA. Okay, unfortunately, for there was some season, especially in fall, there was a number of boats that were inside of the CTA. An example that I give you is in the 2021 cruise, we made a counting of boats and we found 117 within the zero tolerance and another 43 outside, which is this extension, which are the points that you see here. Now, in 2022, the Mexican Navy deployed a number of concrete blocks with hooks, and this was also made in coordination with CONANP and also with Sea Shepherd, and there was a major reduction of these nets, over 90%. I want to highlight that this has been the most relevant preservation step in the story of these efforts of trying to save Vaquita, because what we did was a de facto sanctuary created. And on this graph, despite of all these years of fishing, within this zero tolerance observed, there was a clear evidence that the reduction of Vaquita was not reducing. So, as I was mentioning at the beginning, if you see on this graph, the 2018 graph, if it would have come these rectangles, we would have expected that Vaquita would be extinct by now. But that's where we found this red mark, and we continued having Vaquitas around 10 within this zero tolerance area. Lucky enough, we have had the support of Sea Shepherd Preservation Society using Seahorse that had 3 of these 25x binoculars or augmentation. That's what we see up there. You can see that on the right upper image. And also we use another boat where the observers had hand binoculars and they were able to handle that with Vaquita. So what you see here, all the sightings where we concentrate ourselves in the zero tolerance area. Once with these sightings, we use this expert elicitation method and to have an estimation of the numbers of sightings that we had of Vaquitas in this area. In this case, the observers review the evidence of all the sightings, and then we created this dossier, and then we all analyze, and then the facilitators, which are parts of these experts of this statistics, provide alignment to find a consensus distribution. So the first question that we addressed 2023 and 24 is what's the number of cats different observed within the study area? Right? When we observe from the ship, sometimes it's really hard to establish if an individual it's a calf lesser than 1 year, it's a juvenile. In this picture that you see on the left, it's the last one, the one all the way to the right. Because of the size of the fin, it's very similar to the adults. So if we cannot follow for a while, it's hard to establish this. So fortunately, we incorporated these drones, and with these pictures that we took by Fabián Rodriguez, indicated that it was a juvenile individual. So that's really great news, because this is an evidence that a calf survived the first year, which is the most dangerous period for calves. So it could be a calf that we observed in 2023. And now we can see the results by 2023 in blue, 2024 in orange. Unfortunately, there was all this percentage was in 2024 just indicated that there were no calves seen, which was very different to what we saw differently in blue in 2023. In here, we have the second question. What's the total number of different vaquitas that were observed in the study area, the calves included? There was 76% of the operation, and we had the probability. Now, the opportunity in 2025 is these vaquitas have changed their location, and are they moving to a different place, to cruise ships that we have observed in previous cruise ships. Now, in the very last day, we observed this group of 4 individuals. One of them was this vaquita that we have never seen since 2019. That the one that you see with the red arrow, it has a little curve on the back. Where this vaquita has been, why we didn't see on the previous cruise ships, Well, also, we have other individuals that we have on this inventory with a sample of the dorsal fin that we have not observed since 2019. So again, the question, maybe they died or they have moved to a different locations, to the feeding locations. With this, I leave you such that Gustavo and Barbara share with you what happened with these questions. And I thank you deeply this invitation to be here today. And thank you, everyone. Thank you, Lorenzo. Now we're going to ask Dr. Hinojosa, which is the head of these researches on marine mammals from CONANP, an expert in acoustic that will share with us the relevance of this acoustic work from September.
Listo.
Listo, Gustavo.
Ready.
Solo amplía la
Ready, Gustavo. Can you see the presentation? You must put it up to the whole screen. It's ready. Good evening. I am Dr. Gustavo Cárdenas Hinojosa, and I work in the group of conservation of marine mammals from CONANP, and it's an honor for me to present these results of our monitoring 2025. So the objectives of this monitoring was to know the distribution and identify the priority zones for the vaquita in Vaquita's refuge towards her conservation and protection, and contribute to the design of the cruise 2025 for Vaquita, as well as guiding the visual objectives in conservation. And at the end, the objective was also to give key information towards the population counting of Vaquita based on the visual and acoustic monitoring. We had several meetings with the expert panel in statistics and applied for Vaquita's study to get or achieve the data and analyze the historical data and the ones for today to estimate the data as a guide to limit the study zone. And in the figure, the yellow zone indicates more density and the darkest one, less density. We selected the zones with more density and we used them as sightings, data sightings. In the figure, the black circles are the ones selected for the project were it was covered from September zone, and we used the monitoring systems were recovered for the sampling every 2 weeks. We were using 100-meter ropes, and in one side, we would hold the acoustic monitoring system. The fishermen, which registered the GPS location, and with an anchor, they would hook the rope to recover the acoustic monitoring system. At the beginning, we also used the anchoring of devices that when we receive the acoustic signal, it would liberate the balls that would be found in the surface. The fishermen would come back to San Felipe, and they would deliver the monitoring systems. And at the next day, if the climate were allowed it, they would come. So they would do that again with more monitoring systems. In different sightings, So in total, we did 8 deployments. And as an example, I share the first figure as the sightings of the sampling where we deployed the systems as numbers 6. In total, we deployed 544 detectors and we registered almost 7,000 days of effort. We only lost 10 acoustic detections, which is very low in comparison with other years. In this figure, I am showing you all of the sightings, and we achieved the objective of covering spatially the the area. We registered a total of 161 acoustic sightings, and we are showing the amount. And in September, we only found one, and I didn't add it intentionally to indicate that this data of August 24th till 30th, I guess it was also key. And they were doing their way to find the vaquitas. And in that way, the objective was as you can see in the data, the majority of the sightings were in the zone and some others between the limit west of Vaquita Refuge. And at the end, some other of the sites were registered in the oriental zone of Vaquita's Refuge. And even though they indicate that there is Vaquita, it indicates that she still uses. To achieve the objectives as the same as previously done, the acoustic monitoring was placed using the anchorage with a ball in a surface to see them and replace them daily. This was done if the climate conditions would allow it. In the right image, I can show you the scheme of the system, and CONANP also invested in the buying of 70 detectors, and this allowed the anchorage without the ball because we can program the time, and it allows the finding of the device. In total, we did 12 launches with 50 to 66 detectors, each one in the figure. I am showing you 66 sightings, and these were not changed in the distribution project. In total, we placed 684 detectors in 66 places, and we registered 1,530 days of effort. We only lost 2 acoustic detectors, which is a minimum loss in comparison to previous cruises. Also, it's important to mention that, that we did the covering. We did a bigger area of covering of the efforts in comparison to previous ones. We elaborated a total of 12 reports that included a map with sites where vaquitas were registered, and we would hand them in at night to the visual team leaders so they will decide where to do the samplings of the next day, with the objective of seeing the vaquitas. And in the figure, I can show you an example of the maps of the reports where the numbers in the circles, they indicate the amount of samplings. In total, we registered 93 sightings or acoustic sightings of vaquita. The figure, the circle size indicates the amount of days of the sampling, and the color indicates the rate of the findings. The green indicates the acoustic, and the gray indicates that there were no vaquitas registered. The majority of the acoustic happened towards the middle of the zero tolerance zone, same as the distribution project. We were also registering some outside of the zone, zero tolerance zone. In total, for both projects, there were 1,228 acoustic detectors in 497 sites, and we collected 8,457 days of effort, and in total, we registered 254 acoustic sightings. We still have an analysis program because we have to finish the reports, which will include more details about the distribution and density of vaquita, and it will also include a description of the distribution obtained visually and acoustically in relation to the profundity or deepness. And I can tell you that during the cruises of both Sea Shepherds, we did great effort to know more. It represents the efforts of the Vaquita, and the lighter shown in the image shows less deepness and the darkness more deepness. And in this map, I'm showing you the circles that are smaller and the same size. They indicate the sampling where we did the efforts, but we did not find any vaquitas. The circles that are redder and different size, they indicate the acoustic activity of vaquita for both projects. And for the first trimester of 2026, we are planning on having the results about the estimation of the abundance of vaquita. And just to finish, I want to mention that in the acoustic monitoring program, we have as essential collaborators a local fishermen that are the ones in charge since 2011 of placing and recovering the acoustic detectors, and without them, we wouldn't have been able to realize this extraordinary effort. Thank you so much to them, and also for the acoustic team that we had this year to prepare the detectors, the GPS, and all of those field activities. Thank you. Thank you so much, Gustavo. I think that your information is very complete and very consistent in using different monitoring systems shared with Sea Shepherd and in the way of coordinating this efforts. Now we would ask Dr. Barbara Taylor, that has dedicated so many years to studying the vaquita, and she spent a lot of seasons within the conservation of activities of Sea Shepherd, and she will surely be able to share many of the activities. Go ahead, Dr. Barbara Taylor. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm having a little bit of a problem, Marco. I might just let me try this. Okay, can everyone see my PowerPoint now?
That's correct.
Okay, great. Well, it's my honor to present the visual and acoustic survey from 2025. So we had two objectives. The first, to obtain an estimate of the number of vaquitas and the number of calves seen in the study area using expert elicitation. And the second, to obtain information on body condition of vaquitas. As you heard already, this was months of preparation. We're very grateful for funding from both CONANP and the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society, and the team of people who put together all the logistics to do a 2-ship, 6 big eye, those are the 25 power binoculars survey, with expert observers from Mexico, the US, and Canada. These are the 2 ships, the Seahorse in the foreground and the Bob Barker in the background. Both ships had to be equipped to carry 3 of these large binoculars, and also house the full team of observers so that we could survey the full distribution of vaquitas. For the 3rd year, we also hosted training of local youths who on good weather days were run out to work with the team by Panga. In 2023 and 2024, you can see that we had a lot of good weather. Basically, to see vaquitas, you need a glass calm or just a few ripples. And in September, we did not have nearly as good a weather as we had in May. And even though we invoked named Tranquila, she didn't help us from those big storms that were working up the coast of the Pacific and brought us a lot of swell. And so you can see on the right, that if you have swell heights of 0.3 to 0.6 meters, that the proportion of vaquitas that you can see right in front of the ship drops to 50% and down to even 20%. And so we were in some pretty difficult conditions, but nevertheless, we had some major success seeing vaquitas. You can see the track lines of the ships in blue and red, and the ones that are more distant, we only got 2 days in that northeastern area, but we spent a lot of time inside the ZTA where we were getting the acoustic detections. And you can see those in green, and you can see the sightings in purple, and the purple stars are actually where we saw mothers and calves. So we had success despite the weather. And you can see that most of the sightings were in the ZTA outlined in yellow, and some in the extension area outlined in orange. But then on the northwest, you see that we had a number of sightings right where they'd had acoustic detections that is still within the Vaquita Refuge that is outlined in black, but outside the area that's protected with blocks. The expert elicitation, as described by Lorenzo, we work from an evidence dossier, and we have facilitators who work with us to arrive at a single consensus distribution. Here are the distributions for the last 3 years, 2023 in blue, 2024, which was the year that inspired us to look harder in 2025, in the 2024 in orange and 2025 in gray. And roughly, the number of vaquitas has remained about the same. This year, we estimate that there were at least 7 to 10. And the reason I say at least is because, as you saw with the swells and the wind conditions that we had, we certainly were missing animals, but we still had some very good views. And there's too much uncertainty in these distributions to estimate trends in abundance. I'd like to introduce you to Frida. She is the vaquita that you see with the bent dorsal fin on the right. She's named after the famous Mexican artist Frida Kahlo because even though she's wounded, she's very important to Mexico. And there you can see her with her calf. And I'll play you some lovely video. This is Frida and her calf from September 23rd this year. Many of the media were on board the Bob Barker when these videos were taken. You can see that they're very healthy looking animals. Frida, it turns out, is tied for the largest vaquita ever measured. She's 1.5 meters long. And her calf is just about exactly a year old, which is very interesting since calves are supposed to be born in the spring, and that means she was having a calf last August or September. And if you take a close look at her when she turns on her side here, you can see she might have another calf in her ready for next year. So that's very exciting news. This is a video of 2 adults. And you can again see how healthy the animals look. We're so grateful for these drone footage from Fabian Rodriguez, who was able to get on these animals and able to measure them. So as I mentioned, Frida is 1.5 meters. Her calf is just over 1 meter long. Very importantly, there was 1 or 2, because we can't always identify individuals from the drone footage, but 1 or 2 that were 1.3 meters long. And that means they were animals that were born since the 2022 block installation, which means they survived the most critical period of their lives. So it really seems to be working. The observers agreed that there was 1 and probably 2 calves seen. All the individuals that we saw appeared healthy, and we have continued evidence of good survival of young animals in the protected area. This is, I think, the most important finding of both the acoustic and the visual survey. And that is on the left, you can see all the sightings that we've had since 2017, all the way up through this year. And you can see that in both May and in the fall, and in several different years, we've found these animals that are outside the protected area. And some of those were mother-calf pairs. So I think probably the best thing that you could do for vaquitas is to extend the zero tolerance area to protect these critical individuals. And we saw from remapping the area where vaquitas live that these ridges that were there in 2008 that you see on the left, they remain in the same areas and remain important to vaquitas outside to the northeast. And so those are also important areas to protect for the recovery of vaquitas. And I guess the last piece of good news I'd like to leave you with is that we saw no gill netting at all in September. The shrimp season started after the survey, and we wanted to let everyone know how appreciative we are. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, doctora Taylor, que fue muy claro su
Thank you
presentación.
so much, Dr. Taylor. Your presentation was very clear, and your data was so firm about the calf presence in mothers, and that was great news. And also result and about the observation of vaquita, which is they can be worrying. Of course, the number is a very important subject, but these data is something that we acknowledge about this monitoring. And now we would ask Dr. Mariana Robles, your Secretary of Biodiversity, and we will close this first part, and we will leave a question and answer. Go ahead, Secretary. Thank you so much, Pedro. The first thing that I want to say is the appreciation SEMAR has for the long list of institutions that are part of this effort of collaboration to know the conditions of vaquitas population, their health, towards the Marine Secretary, a great appreciation for this collaboration and this effort also for Profepa, our colleague Mariana Boy and her team that also make in the region a great job that allows us these kinds of results that monitoring is showing us, and CONANP and Icaza as well. Of course, CONANP that is coordinating this monitoring effort with the colleagues that are here in central offices as well as the ones that are in the offices and in the natural areas, the Gulf of Mexico, and also my colleagues and see conservational commissions that are coordinating this institutional effort, and also to Pritam and Julián and the Sea Shepherd team, Sea Shepherd completely, because their collaboration, their support is making real an effort like this. And I would love Pedro and colleagues to say a little bit more, like when we started the monitoring campaign, make a recount of the story of vaquita and of the problematic that is associated to that. How is the vaquita getting to have a condition like the one she has right now? At the end of the 1800s, the populations of the Chinese community that have been brought and among them, they were coming to the south of the U.S. for the train constructions of the zone. They started having conflicts with the United States because they started having a lot of success in the several productive activities that were done moreover than their train or railroad construction. So this exodus that is given from the Chinese population in the south of California and the permanent incoming that of the Chinese community that was trying to go back or go into the U.S. It drives them to colonize and to live in the high Gulf of California. And they discovered that in this zone of the high Gulf of California, there was a kind of fish that they were consuming.
Esta totuaba entonces empieza a ser pescada por la comunidad china,
So the totuaba being fished by the community because of
que es el órgano que permite que
natatory organ of the totuaba. This is the organ that to control the profundity at which they swim, and this was kept for a long time. And then the fishery that was continued to grow, and not only amongst the Chinese community, but also amongst the Mexican fishers that were providing towards the demand of this Chinese community towards China. And also in some of the American Union states, they raise the fishing effort towards totuaba. And in the second half of this century, this kind of fishery placed the totuaba in such a condition that Mexico declares it as protected species. And also the kind of fish
and also for the fishing of totuaba, well, was something that incidentally affected the Vaquita porpoise. So both species went through the same destiny, that they put them next to the extinction. And well, Mexico, for a really strength way in the recent years, there was this work to respond to a resilient species that has provided all these samples that wants to stay in the higher Gulf of California, just as we are decided for that to happen. And this action plan, which is what walks along this joint efforts to know how we can find it and how to recover, how to keep Vaquita Marina, implies an interinstitutional effort, which is major. That also includes that Profepa SEMAR have increased the work of vigilance and inspection, and even the satellite follow-up of these smaller vessels that our colleague, the Álvarez of SEMAR, was mentioning. All this work of taking away all this, and also Mariana Boy has worked. All of this has bring us to a point in which in the Union Congress, there is this vote for increasing the sanctions in the penal code and the law code, such that whomever are surprised marketing, storing, transporting, and particularly this institution that is this organism that is totuaba can experience a very important impact. And this effort of monitoring that CONANP and Sea Shepherd play a fundamental role, because without them, we cannot have this deployment of these two vessels with these huge binoculars, these big eyes that allow
la comunidad de
that the
investigadores de
research
nuestro país
community from our country and
internacionales puedan
international
hacer
ones
la labor que
can
hicieron,
perform
que
this task that
es
they did,
observar,
which
estar
was
a lo largo de un mes y
working for
como
an
lo
entire
hizo
month,
Gustavo Cárdenas
and as
también, a lo
Gustavo
largo de
Cárdenas
muchos
did
meses
for
para
all
poder
these
tener
months,
este
to be
monitoreo
able to have this
acústico
acoustic
y darnos
monitoring
resultados
and to
que nos
provide
permiten ver
results that
varias
allow
cosas.
us
Y
to
creo
see
que
a
es
number of things. And I
importantísimo
believe
lo
that
que
it's so
tenemos en
important
estos
what we have
resultados.
in these results.
Uno, este
One,
monitoreo
this
nos
monitoring
permite ajustar la estrategia de trabajo,
allow us
nos
to
permite
fine-tune this
reforzar
working
acciones
strategy
en zonas
to strengthen some
precisas
areas in precise
para
areas,
poder tener
such that
mayor
we can have
vigilancia, para
more
poder
vigilance,
tener mayor
to be able to
cuidado.
have more care.
Pero nos habla
But
también
also this talks
de
to us about
varias cosas,
a
que la
number of
vaquita
things,
está
like
ahí,
Vaquita
que
is
se
right there,
mantiene,
that it's
que
keeping there, staying there,
no continuó la
that
tendencia a
this
la baja,
trend
que
towards the
incluso
reduction, it
individuos
did
que
not
no
go on,
habíamos
that there are even
visto
some
hacía
individuals that
varios
we haven't
años
seen
y
for a
que
number of years,
evidentemente
and
están
clearly
en algún otro
they
sitio en
are
el que no
elsewhere
hemos
where
estado
we have
nosotros
not been able
monitoreando
to
y que se
monitor
sigue
them.
reproduciendo.
And
El
there's
hecho de que una
a
especie se siga
reproduction continuing. The
reproduciendo y
fact
se
that
vea
the species
saludable es el
continues
mejor
to
indicador
reproduce, that's the best indicator
de su vida, de su
of
condición, de la
their life,
condición
their
como especie,
condition as a
pero
species,
también
but
la mejor
also
invitación
the
a mantener
better
el
invitation
esfuerzo
to
y a
continue this
mantener
effort
la
and to
esperanza
continue
del
this
trabajo
hope
conjunto.
and this joint effort.
Hace unos meses,
A
cuando
few
fuimos
months
a
where
reportar
we
ante la
went to
Convención
report before the
Internacional
International
encargada de
Convention in
regular
charge
el
of
comercio
regulating trade
de especies
of
amenazadas,
endangered
de
species,
las cosas que
among of the things
mantuvimos como
that we
una
kept
demanda, como una
as a
solicitud, como una
demand, a
insistencia de
request,
nuestro país,
something, a
es que un
persistence from our
esfuerzo de esta
country, is that
naturaleza
an effort of this
para que
kind,
tenga éxito
to be able to be
necesita de
successful, we need
coordinación,
to have
no solamente
coordination,
de
not just
coordinación
the
maravillosa que
coordination, the
tenemos
wonderful
al
coordination
interior
that we have
con los
towards
grupos
the
de
inside and the
investigadores del
different research
extranjero,
groups from
sino
the
una colaboración con los
from abroad,
gobiernos de
but
Estados
also
Unidos y de China,
collaboration with
porque
Chinese and U.S.
el
governments,
conflicto asociado
because the
al
conflict
comercio
related
ilegal de
to
totuaba
unlawful trade of
está fuera de
totuaba
México.
is outside
El
of Mexico.
consumo
The
de
consumption
buche de totuaba
of
no se da en
totuaba
México. El
parts is
tránsito
not part of
de
that.
buche de totuaba
This
incluye a
trading
otros
of
países, incluye a
mandatory
Estados Unidos,
bulb
incluye a
includes the
China,
U.S.,
incluye
includes the
incluso a
China,
Canadá.
it even
Y por
includes
eso es
Canada.
tan importante la coordinación
Also,
que
that's
tiene que
why
haber con estos
it's so
países para que
important the
tengamos
coordination
éxito.
with these countries such that we can close
Finalmente,
this.
Pedro,
And
creo que
also,
como al principio de esta administración
as a
dijimos tú y
part
yo,
of this
el gobierno de México, de
administration, we
manera
said
particular la Secretaría del Medio Ambiente y todo el
the
sector ambiental, con
all the
esta
environmental
coordinación que
sector with
tenemos
this
interinstitucional
coordination
en el grupo para
with
mantener y
a
generar
group
condiciones de
to
sustentabilidad
have
en el
this
Alto Golfo de México.
sustainability
Estamos
in the
convencidos
higher Gulf.
que
We're
vamos a
convinced
mantener a la vaquita marina,
we
que
will
vamos a
continue
mantener
to
el
have
cuidado
the
para
vaquita, and
que
we will
siga
have the
creciendo,
care to
reproduciéndose y la
continue
puedan ver las próximas
reproducing, and
generaciones. Muchas
following
gracias.
generations will be able to enjoy. Thank you.
Muy bien, como acordado, vamos a abrir
Thank you very much.
periodo
As
de
we
preguntas
agreed,
con la
we will
prensa
open
primero
a
los
Q&A
panelistas.
with the press here in
¿Me
person.
ayudas, por favor, a coordinar esta parte?
If you could
Sí,
please
por acá tenemos
help us
a
to
Héctor
coordinate.
Gordoa de
Yes, we
Latinos.
have
Nos
Héctor Gondoas from
pregunta la
Latinos.
proyección de
He's asking
reproducción de
these
la vaquita sigue
estimations
en
of the
riesgo por el
vaquita
tráfico
still
de
in risk due
totuaba.
to the totuaba trade.
¿Algún reporte sobre
Any
los
report
datos
on
tras
the
el derrame de
data
petróleo en
after this
Veracruz?
oil spill in Veracruz? If you would like to respond to this.
¿Quién de los que quisiera contestar la pregunta?
Who would like to respond,
Comentar o quiere comentar alguno de los
or many, with some of our colleagues on internet?
Sí, lo de Veracruz creo que es en otro tema. Ahorita estamos solamente en lo de
Yeah,
Vaquita.
for Veracruz is for another topic. Right now we're just talking about Vaquita.
Lorenzo pide la mano, creo. Entonces,
Lorenzo?
¿quisieras tú contestar, por favor?
Si no entendí muy bien la pregunta, ya corrigieron que estamos hablando del Golfo de
We're talking about the higher
California, no
Gulf
del
of
Golfo de
California, We're talking about the future of the vaquita. So the question, it's a good question. So it's important to mention that incidental mortality of vaquita is not just in the Toaba fisher nets, also in other kinds of fisher nets. And according to the presentation, before there was this increase of the demand of the Toaba swimming bladder, like 10 or 15 years ago, there was this drop of 8% of the population as an average, also 45% of the reduction of population due to the Totoaba fisher, which is the most lethal. So if we want to save vaquita, we need to remove these Totoaba fisher nets, which are the most lethal ones. As long as we do not continue doing that, the population will remain at risk. And so there's not a projection that is established because there's a number of data that we don't have, but we do know that as there's the population of vaquita reduces of 10 sightings, well, it will drop way too much. As long as we have 10 sightings, the opportunity of recovery, it's really high. That's the number of individuals that we show. I don't know if I was able to respond. Maybe Dr. Taylor would like to respond something or add something to this question. It seems that she doesn't. Well, so we will move on with the next question. I believe that it's very interesting. This struggle with the Totoaba trade. I'm sorry, questions will be made here because given that this is being recorded, we do have access to the mic this way. So if we continue to the next question, Rafael Guadarrama from Channel 11, he says that we can precise, how can we find the population of the vaquita with just a sighting of 7 to 10? Is that population stable enough? Can we consider this? Gustavo Lorenzo, maybe you would like to add? Did you hear this question?
I don't know if, Barb, do you get the question? You can answer that, or if not,
Yeah, I heard the question, and I think one of the important things about vaquitas is that we know a lot about their genetics, and you could see in the animals that we were looking at how healthy they are. And so I have faith in the animals. Hopefully, when we use all of the data that Gustavo, the over 8,000 days of acoustic data, will be able to give a better abundance estimate. But, you know, whether there's 10 of them or there's 12 of them or there's 15 of them, the important thing is that you halt having them die in gill nets and let them reproduce. And as long as that's happening, I have faith in the animals.
Muchas gracias, doctora Taylor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Taylor. Lorenzo, would you like to add something? Yes, I would like to add something that I believe that it's important that we all understand here. The number that Barb mentioned, that is not an estimation of the population size. That is an estimation of the minimum number that we observe in the study area. So it's important to distinguish that we saw was not just a distribution of abundance. We're working on that, as Gustavo mentioned in his presentation. So I just want to establish that's the second stage. We did not establish the number of vaquitas existing, but the numbers that we observe in the study area. Thank you. Yeah, that's very important to clear this up. Let's remind that in these maps that Gustavo showed, there's the presence of vaquita beyond the zero tolerance area. That's something very important that we need to consider with these provisions. Next question, please. Yes, Jorge Salcedo from El Sol de Mexico. Which actions were implemented with vessel goes into the zero tolerance area, and how often it has happened in the last year? And maybe it's something that we could add. Vice Alderman, would you like to respond to that? Yeah, the actions are taken when there's a vessel. When we detect them, we stop them, and then we bring them before the authorities. So that's how we proceed to deliver any product and the people to the proper authorities, the law enforcement authorities, for the process of detention. Mariana Boy, maybe we would like to add something. Yes, of course. I would like to add that indeed, when we detect that there's some boat in the CTA, there's a really close coordination between SEMAR and Profep and CONAPESCA. Clearly, we create this legal document. We secure. There's this review if there we found within this boat any species that has been fished unlawfully, and besides that, we keep. If we find any item, we secure the items and also the boats themselves. So all these are placed in legal documents. We have this procedure. We assign accountabilities, and also we inform, and we started with this lawful process or this legal process. And then we bring to the authorities the individuals. If there was like a totoaba animal or individual, we place these individuals to the authorities. We have a really close relationship with the prosecutor's office, and then we start this legal procedure along with the administrative process. So in that sense, we also have all this process of moving forward. I don't know if I mentioned this at the beginning, but we have been able to accomplish the utilization of 5 legal processes, and we have been able to come to sentences where the individuals, some are being processed, but at the end, we have moved forward in a very important manner in the lawful and administrative consequences. So it all requires a very close coordination, and that is what we have strength in this last year, and that's why we have had this kind of really positive results. I would like to add something, if I may, just to the journalist of the Sol of Mexico. A Sea Shepherd vessel is monitoring and patrolling like 24/7 the zero tolerance area, and in these reports of these vessels that go into this CTA are published every day, and then we can make this available such that you can see how many vessels go in there in the last years. Thank you, Julián. Also, I would like to stress some important facts. Mexico has this monitoring system of Vaquita Marina and Totoaba. So I just wanted to stress that. Okay. Next question. What actions are still missing to avoid mesh nets and fishing methods that endanger vaquita, particularly in San Felipe and Santa Clara, also from El Sol de Mexico, this newspaper? Who would like to respond to this question? Maybe my colleagues. Well, these actions are the same that we have been implementing to patrol, have vigilance, to detect some possible nets. Sometimes there's no vessel, just these nets, this ghost fisher gears that they, I don't know, ended up there in this CTA. So in this ongoing monitoring, we detect and we remove them to wherever they will not affect to the vaquita population. Thank you, Deputy Almirant. Lorenzo, if you could please. Yes, thank you. To be able to avoid the extinction of vaquita, we all know we need to reduce the incidental capture to zero. And to reduce the incidental capture to zero, we need to remove the mesh nets that kills them. So where we have been stuck, where it's our Achilles tendon, is that we have not been able to develop sustainable practices for vaquita and the fishermen. I mean, the fishermen need to bring food to the table, but they would need to provide different fisher gears. well, there are this kind of mesh nets. That will be very hard that we accomplish that. So there's a number of steps to work along with the fishermen, fishing sector. We have been doing this administration, this office, since day one. We started having this meetings for Vaquita since day one, not like other officers that they took like 3 or 4 years before they start something. And then this, with this administration, we started working with the fishermen and fisher organizations since day one, in terms of a number of fishing techniques to work with this transition that I know that it's not easy. It's like we have the vanguard of fisher gears development and we have found some obstacles. It's not like easy, but what it's important is to reduce to zero the incidental mortality and not to bring the without hurting the fishermen. I mean, we need to develop these fisher gears such that the fishermen can support their families themselves and to have a healthy life to all the fishermen in the area. Thank you.
Gracias, Pedro.
Thank you, Pedro. This that Lorenzo is saying, it's super important, and we're precisely in this work with the MIPAS, doing all this planning for testing and fine-tuning these alternative fisher gears that might eventually substitute the current ones. Changes at the end in culture imply and all this time. So one of the things that I believe that are in our favor is that the conversation with these fisher communities, it's a conversation that remains, that it has been really great, that it's not in our condition of confrontation, but coordination. And I believe that that will help us. The other thing is that for unlawful trade, which are two very different situations. One is, how can we find this kind of fishing gear? And another one is the reconstruction of the means of survival for the communities, something very important that we have to have. We are not just interested that Vaquita will remain, that continue increasing its population. We're also interested in that the communities of the high Gulf have a good livelihood, the proper conditions to bring food to their tables. And this is a double-sided challenge, and we can only perform this as sitting on the table, talking with them, and building solutions with the communities. And the other pathway that is closely related with this struggle against unlawful trade, well, implies another kind of coordination tasks that we have, not just with vigilance that the Navy Ministry, that CONAPESCA, that Prefecta performs, and also with the support of Sea Shepherd, but also with the authorities of citizen safety that are doing their tasks. And the other thing is this that I'm mentioning, which is right now in the Congress, which is changing the penal code to that increase sanctions like fines and years of prison to the unlawful acts that affect wildlife and particularly to these individuals. Thank you very much. Next question. Diego from Routers, which are the in situ strategies to monitor and stop Vaquita and Totuaba fisheries, or they depend on Sea Shepherd?
Inicio yo y le doy la palabra a nuestros compañeros de Profepa.
I give the word on SEMAR.
Sea Shepherd es una gran ayuda.
Sea Shepherd is a major contribution, but the head of vigilance remains on our local authorities. The work of the Navy Ministry, Profepa and CONAFEPA, has this coordination process. The assistance that Sea Shepherd provides is to be able to keep on the ocean these vessels that allow us to provide notice. But we do have 3 different vigilance schemes, and Deputy Almirant, maybe you can increase this information. There's this satellite vigilance that we have that precisely we just finished the installation in all these different smaller boats. And also there's this inspection that happens on the ocean and on land, where there's ships coming in and out. They're very important areas for vigilance, and this is in coordination between these 3 institutions. Almirant, if you could please. Yes, thank you, Doctor. Yes, as it was mentioned during this presentation, we just finished the installation of 484 satellite terminals in all these vessels that are property of the fishermen of the high Gulf of California. With the monitoring these boats, of these vessels, most that operate in that area, we can find out if they're going into the CDA or not. That's one of them, and the most important for now. Also, on land, as the doctor was mentioning, we have Navy personnel that verify that when they arrive or when they launch, the fishery gears that they're bringing are not the forbidden ones. And when they're not bringing unlawful fishery. And also we have these radars that was mentioned during this presentation that are installed both in San Felipe and Peñasco, through which we also detect the kind of vessels that navigate the area. Mariana? Yes, me to supplement what Marina Rosa was saying, what we do is to verify on the authorized sites for sailing and coming back. We review all the different vessels in San Felipe, in Santa Clara, and Puerto Peñasco in Sonora. And also, besides of that, we verify these vessels and this kind of fishing gears that they're bringing. Also, we do these tours, these marine tours within this CDA, and also in this zero tolerance. From January the 1st to date, we have performed over 130 marine tours and 170 verifications on the sailing and ports. And something very important as well is this coordination that we have been talking so much is very important. We have been able to take over 15 trainings to the Navy Ministry, National Guard, Municipal Police, the airport workers staff, such that we can share these problems that we have around Vaquita Purpose and Totoaba, especially to identify the Totoaba swimming bladder in any condition. That at the end, these authorities are the ones that are like the first responders and put to the disposition of the law enforcement agencies all these findings. So these are the main actions that we have been taking for inspection and vigilance in the area. If I may, there's a couple of data that I believe that it's a clear evidence of the inspection and vigilance work, how it has strengthened up, and how this coordination has allowed for a real success in terms of control. Look at this. And we mentioned this during these presentations, and I would like to mention them again. During these last years, we reduced 97% the presence of boats detected in the CDA. Out of 171 to 4 boats. I mean, it's the best evidence that we have a better control and also a better coordination at work and cooperation with the communities and the institutions. And the other thing is this piece of information that our peer Gustavo mentioned. Gustavo was saying that they placed 684 detectors, acoustic detectors, all over the area that they were monitoring, and they have only lost 2 of them. In other years, Gustavo himself, when we were in the Sea Shepherd vessels, he was saying that many were lost. And the other thing is that not necessarily they were recovered. So these are 2 main indicators of the strength, of the vigilance, of the strength of the control, to be able to ensure that in these areas we are having a good protection. Very well mentioned. Okay, we have another question from Verónica Santamaría. If the Vaquita Marina population is steady, by when do you foresee an increase of the population, like the CDA measurements? About the proportion of Dr. Taylor, why not extending the CDA of Vaquita purpose? What would happen with the communities of the fishermen? Will there be some programs for the fishery season or what? I believe the first question I will be able, Lorenzo can be responding, or if Dr. Taylor would like to say something, she's welcome to do so. I didn't quite catch the first question. Could you repeat? Yeah, if the population of Vaquita purpose remains steady, by when do you foresee an increase of population with all these CDA preservation methods? We have made a number of estimations. The more optimistic, the last estimation to come to 60 individuals. It's a process really long, with some calves, well, maybe just once a year, so some every 2 years. But let's say that all the females produce a calf every year to come to 60, maybe 18 or 20 years in the most optimistic scenario. And we made a genetic estimation. Maybe Baba has this information more fresher of this article that we published. So it's a long period. We need to understand that Vaquita will not recover in just a couple of years. Dr. Taylor, would you like to add something? Barbara Taylor, would you like to add something?
Yeah, I think Lorenzo covered it very well. It takes a long time for vaquitas to reproduce, but what we're seeing is so encouraging that we have these females that are reproducing as fast as they can, and their young are surviving. I mean, most mammals, you lose a lot of them in their first year or two, and we're seeing this tremendous survival. So I think their recovery could be on the optimistic end, but still, right now it's the time to work on the human dimension of the problem, which is, working to give good livelihoods so that the local communities can support the recovery of vaquitas and still have good livelihoods themselves, and that's what everyone wants to see.
Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Pedro. Yo quisiera comentar sobre dos siguientes preguntas.
I would like to comment on a couple of questions. These results of this monitoring that we had, indeed, it will allow us to make adjustments on the working strategy. But none of the decisions that we will make them without the communities of the higher Gulf, because again, we are committed to keep the existence of the Vaquita purpose, and we will accomplish that, we will strengthen the conditions for this work of 20 or 50 years will continue to preserve this species, but also we're committed with the livelihood of the fishermen of this region, with the livelihood of the communities of that region. Therefore, the decisions will be made along with them, how we need to adjust, how we need to care, how we build the proper conditions for the future, for the ecosystem and the human populations as well. And we are working of opportunities of different kind, not only the alternative fishery gears that we will need to introduce as well, but other kinds of activities. That is also part of what we're talking with the communities and what we need to build along with them. I'm sorry, Pedro. And also, these adjustments imply these adjustments that are coming of knowing the distribution of these areas of monitoring will have to take us to organize along with them the areas of larger vigilance of protection and the activities that we need to strengthen this coordinated work with them. Before finishing, I would like to stress something that the Deputy Minister and the Deputy Elmer and the people online has mentioned already. Everything that is on our side as government to protect this very important species, we will accomplish that. We're committed, as the sub-ministry just mentioned. There are alternatives that we're considering, economic alternatives for a number of time. We believe that the zero tolerance area is super relevant, especially with this increase and the presence of the vaquita towards the northwest. And we believe that we can find some kind of mix of factors of monitoring, more support, and also to find economical support to the region. I believe that there's some options, and we will be sharing that with them. So with this press release, we have presented this work that were performed, and we wanted to share this with you, the media, and we continue open to the comments, questions that you might have. We will have a proper commission where we will be representing the Mexican government with the support of a number of colleagues at the federal level. But we just want to say it's not just a topic of Mexico, it's a topic that involves a number of countries, China, Vietnam, and the US, of course. So I believe that it's a shared process, and we're doing our best effort to be able to protect this species. Thank you very much for having been with us in this press conference. Good afternoon.